Well, the builder is going to, yeah, he's supposed to be.
There you go. See ya. Yes. And he's got a guard. And then look at one.
Right.
Step up. They have all
It looks like you said that they gave now it's.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us tonight for Park Township Zoning Board of Appeals, May 6th, 2024 meeting. Call that to order. We've all got agendas in front of us. I would take a motion to approve if everybody's okay, or we got amendments to make.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. All right, agenda passes. We'll move forward. We've also got the minutes from our last meeting in front of us. If everybody's had a minute to look at those. If everybody's seen anything on them that we need to amend. Okay. Perfect.
Delete.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was my correction. I was going to note as well.
Okay, so we'll make a note of the deletion of Jane's from that. Jane's presence there. Okay, any other notations, revisions, anything there?
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 8th, 2024 meeting with that correction.
Okay, we've got a motion. Support. All in favor? Aye. All right. Minutes approved as amended. All right, with that, we'll move on to the next public hearing number 1. We've got quite a few on our agenda tonight, so I think we'll just get started. Mika, if you can introduce number 1 to us.
Okay. Item number 1 today is a request on the south side of Lake Macatawa. It's on the northeast corner of west 32nd Street and Leonard Avenue. This is a vacant parcel that is, they desire to build a house on it. There are 2 setbacks in question. Front yard average does apply. So they're able to go to, I think it was 30 feet from the surface or from the edge of the right of way, it's 40. So they're looking for relief on the 32nd Street setback. That is a side yard with the front setback requirement. And then also on the rear setback, that is a 25-foot requirement, and they're asking for 10 feet. Now, the point that is a little more interesting about this one is that the applicant did discuss this with a previous zoning administrator several iterations ago. There was a different interpretation of what was permitted on a corner lot at that time. I didn't have time to check and see, was there a change in the ordinance or is it a change in interpretation? This was the first that I'd seen of this. So I did go back, I looked at all the definitions, I included those things for you so you can take a look and see if you agree with how I've been interpreting it. Would you like to say, no, that's not how that should be? I wanted to make sure that you have that information, but that is the proposal that's before you today.
Okay. Well, that is the applicant present to speak for.
Yes.
If you could approach the podium and sign in for us with your name and address.
Okay, I'm Jennifer Barth and my son Chris is here with me. my assistant.
Welcome.
Thank you. And for address, we don't have one yet, but I will put 32nd Street and Leonard Street. Okay, I have a short presentation, and can you hear me all right? Am I?
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, sure. Most of what I'm going to say is in your packets, but I just wanted to give you a little background. I'm from here. I was born in Holland Hospital and went to Harrington School and West Ottawa High School. My husband, Pat, and I presently, we live in South Bend, Indiana, where we've lived for a long time, as does our son and family. The home will be a second home for Pat and me and our son and family. Presently, we don't plan to move here. However, our home in South Bend is 1,400 square feet, which is just fine for us. However, if we need more space and or need a caregiver in the future with us, this proposed home would be a more suitable living arrangement for us. Mika Weiss has been my contact at the township, and she has been very helpful to me with regarding ordinances, setbacks, application process, et cetera. Our lot, as Mika described, it's a corner lot, and the setbacks and everything, I've needed some guidance here about it. The lot is 80 by 20. The 80 is east to west, and the 120 is north to south. We'd like a home that is 30 feet by 80 feet. We requested the 80 feet. We are requesting the 80 feet for design flexibility. However, there's a document you have, it's a 2016 township document, and on that, the home depicted there is 30 by 70 feet, which is why we knew when we purchased a lot that a home could be built of that size. So the reasons we request the 10-foot rear yard setback is several reasons, but one, this was what was communicated to us by the township when we purchased the property on that 2016 document. Also, if we're required to have more than a 10-foot rear setback, we'd have to ask for a variance to the west along Leonard Street. And if we had to do that, then the proposed home would be closer to Leonard Street, and we'd prefer the home to be further away from the street. And the fourth reason, trees. There's trees to the west, and we'd like to preserve them. They might have to be removed if the home were further west. And then the 25-foot setback on the south, 32nd Street. The proposed home can't be any further north because of a setback there, 10 feet, but also there's a general utility easement there that does not hug the lot line. So that setback has to be 13 to 14 feet. And so doing the math north to south with the 120, that's why we're asking what we're asking for, the 25-foot setback. And I do think thought the averages along the south there, 32nd Street, are 30 feet. And so our request is just for a few feet. However, and then one other thing, two things. Regarding both of the variance requests, there are homes nearby on 32nd Street, especially to the west of our property, that are very close to 32nd Street and each other. But I'm also noticing when I'm doing some of the math here that when I asked for the 25-foot setback on 32nd Street, in order to have an 80-foot long house, we really needed 27 feet, but I am aware that we are not to ask for more at a meeting. Otherwise, it's publicized ahead of time. So I understand that. And my son's here too, if you do you have anything to add? Okay.
Do we have any questions for the applicant while she's here? I've got one actually, because
Yes.
I'm looking at the second to last sheet.
The what?
The second to last sheet in your application
Oh, right,
here that we
right.
have. It's just, it shows the site plan with the
Yes.
proposed house on it.
Are you having a hard time finding where the house is supposed to be?
No,
There's
no.
a lot of lines.
I'm seeing the solid line that represents what your plan should be for your house. So it appears and it shows the east side with the porch in there, and I see it. But what I'm looking at is between the dashed lines of the requested 25-foot front setback and the 40-foot, that appears to be where I see this house laying out almost, not quite 40, but beyond 25. So but the request is for 25?
Okay,
Yeah, and I did confirm with the applicant, she can speak to that, that was a later change.
Okay.
To the application.
Okay, so
Yeah. and I'm not sure, were you looking at this one?
I am, yep.
Yeah, okay. And what was it that was your question? Because I
Well,
don't know that I'm.
I would expected to see the diagram represent the house being shown on the 25-foot setback, but it doesn't.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes. And you know what? Yes, you're right. And it should, the lines should be further out here like this.
Yep,
And you know what?
that's-
I have that over there with my very messy drawings
No, you're
because
good.
it didn't depict that.
I just wanted to make sure that's what we were talking
Yes,
about.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Okay,
And thank you for asking because it was on my mind too. So yes, that's where that was.
okay. Okay, I think we got a couple questions here.
That you gave us, what is this right here?
That's
Jane,
not
I'm sorry,
supposed
could
to
you use your
be.
microphone?
Okay,
You got to turn it on the back, I think. Okay, there it is. Now press the button.
On the picture you gave of the front, is it working now?
Nope, let go. Now you're good.
On the picture you gave us, I was wondering what this side room is here.
that's not supposed to be there. That's an old drawing that I had given. But when we thought that the screen porch is going to be on the east now,
Yeah.
that's on the south, but it didn't work with the setbacks. And you know what I mean, with being really close to 36, so that should have a big X on it. Yeah,
Threw me on.
no, these are things I thought about too, coming this evening that you might ask about.
So just to follow up on that, so that I'm clear, you're asking for the south wall of the home to be on a 25-foot setback.
Correct.
And Mika, can you clarify for me the front yard averaging? Was that averaging front yards on both streets?
Yeah, so the way that we've been doing this, is anything within 3 on the same block, so it would be on either street, within 300 feet.
Have there been any concerns expressed about traffic safety or clear view corner, anything like that with?
No, and at 25 feet, that would be, we're usually looking at like 20 feet back or thereabouts. So I think that would still be within bounds for that.
Oh, also, I will add something about the traffic concerns. We'd like the house to face Leonard Street and the driveway there for safety and traffic as opposed to pulling out onto 32nd Street.
I have one last maybe question. So what brought you to propose 25 feet in lieu of what we kind of see on the drawing that was between 25 and 40? What made you push the house clear up? Did it not fit the way it was drawn originally, I guess? That's what I'm wondering. Now you're asking 25 to be the setback, and because it looked like it fit well beyond the 25 feet originally.
Originally the porch that's on the back was on the south. South, is that south? It's on the bottom. Yeah, the porch that's on the east was on the south. So that was what the original question was, and then the application, she decided to move that around to the back. And I'm not entirely clear if that changed the envelope of the rest of the house or.
Well, no, the only thing I would say about that is that 10-foot setback allows for another 10 feet for the screen porch for just part of the house. And then the actual house is going to be 20 feet back, but I think the porch is included in the setback, et cetera.
Right, the original application, which had the screen porch on the south side.
Right.
And that was how we had talked about what that 25 feet was, and then.
Right.
Oh, I see what you're
Up to
Yeah.
the east side. If
Right.
the building envelope is still the same, aside from the porch.
Yes.
Gotcha. That used to be where the porch maybe landed, was on that 25-foot mark.
That's on.
So with the porch moving to the east side now,
Right, and then again, back to the original, the 2016 Park Township where the home was 30 by 70, which is adequate. We're requesting the 80 feet to have a little bit larger great room on the first floor, so that the house could be big. So that's where the main reason why we're requesting the 80 feet, and then therefore that setback from 32nd Street and the south.
any other questions for the applicant?
Well, now I can. I see there's a 30-foot yard setback on this Leonard Avenue.
Yes,
Okay, so it's 25 on the one and 30 setback on the other.
yes, I think the averages are about the same for both. And the 30-foot setback on Leonard, that's fine. And again, as I stated already previously, we want the 10-foot setback on that backyard. And plus, I'm kind of laughing at myself because I'm calling these yards different names, side, front, back. You know, I know that there's some, I don't want to say confusion there, but it's a corner lot. So, but anyway, if we have to, if we can't have the 10-foot setback in the rear, the house would have to be moved further for what we want to do.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, and Mika too, as we've communicated. Thank you.
So this time, I guess I'll open it up to public hearing for those who want to speak for or against the project. Looking around the room, I see nobody getting up. So we'll close the public hearing and open up to board discussion. So the screen porch moved to the east. It used to be on the south. So that's what we see represented on the drawing, right? And it used to be back in the day, looking at Ed DeVries's email from 2016, that they were counting on the north setback to be 10 feet from all the dimensions I see, right? So of course we got an easement in there of 10 feet plus an additional, sounds like 3 to 4 feet to the north beyond the easement. It's causing more pain here. So just want to make sure I'm understanding it all right as everybody else might be.
That's how I understand it as well. It seems to me that when the applicant purchased the property, certainly they received information from the township. This proposal is somewhat consistent with that. I would note that at the time in 2016, it appears they were discussing 70-foot long home. Now it's proposed to be 80, which would require a setback less than the front yard average by 5 feet. My personal opinion is that there is not justification in the record to go to a setback lesser than the average. I'm hearing from the applicant that 70 feet would be adequate. If we were to require the average front yard setback, it would put it at 75. So it would essentially be split the difference, and would still allow for the screened porch on the east side of the home. So it would be, I think my vote tonight will reflect that. I believe the average front yard setback should be applied here, especially on the street corner where you have a high side elevation facing 32nd Street. So that at this point is my opinion on it.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a reasonable condition.
Yeah. You know, I know across Leonard, Mika, there's houses that are really close.
Yeah,
Look like they were 5-7 feet away.
something like that.
Yeah, so that contributes to the averaging that we see that are,
No, actually,
East of
those
there?
are, not across the street, so that doesn't contribute to the averaging. It was from the homes. This is based on GIS measurements along the block to the north and then to the east. I think it was mainly to the north where those were.
Okay.
I think it was mainly to the north. I have my notes elsewhere.
I was just looking at the north side of like 32nd. It seems like they're
Yeah.
decent way away, but the ones just immediately to the west are real
Those are
close.
very, very close, and I did pull up the GIS, and I want to say, I don't remember off the top of my head. Which.
Were those
I
built
measured.
a long time ago though?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yes, yeah, yes,
That's,
yeah, goes down to feet. There's one house, a bit further north that I think is 20 feet away, and I think that's what pulled the average.
Hmm. So it sounds like maybe we're getting closer to maybe getting somewhere. If anybody makes a motion, we'll love to hear it.
Mr. Chair, I did divide these into two requests for the different.
So
One for the side yard 25, where the front yard of 40 was required, and then also the rear yard.
So the first, you said side yard, the front yard,
The
Well.
side,
from 32nd?
From 30 seconds.
What front yard? Yeah, I think we got a,
Required front yard.
okay, so yeah, so front yard of 25 where 40 is required. That'd be our first go, right? All right, so take that one at a time, and the next step would be to take the rear yard setback, so that's where the porch is at on the east side. For a setback of 10 feet where 25 is required, so we'll do these two separately. So let's start in the front. Is there anyone willing to make a motion?
there's actually 3 people.
Yeah, this will just be for the offset from 32nd Street. Yep. And is the applicant okay? I mean, if we choose to not abide by this request, I mean, could there be an acceptance of a lesser relaxation?
Which request are we on right now?
The first one for the front yard.
For the front yard along
Off
32nd
32nd,
Street?
off
Yeah.
of
And so what
32nd.
is your question?
So if it's not, I don't know, it seems like maybe we're not gonna head in a good path here for you, maybe, I'm not sure, but if it's not 25 feet and we have some other discussions about, something less than that, is that something that's gonna be detrimental to your plans?
I don't think so, because the averages are 30.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so if it would be 30 feet, 30-foot setback from 32nd Street, then the house could be as long as 75 feet.
Correct.
And yes, that would be acceptable. Mhm.
We can do that through this process, Mika, right? We don't have to go on 25, but reject or make a motion to have additional.
a lesser.
Yeah. Yep.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for a reduced front yard setback with the modification that the setback be 30 feet where 40 is required to reflect a lesser relaxation of the 40-foot standard from that of the 25-foot setback requested by the applicant.
Perfect.
If there's a second,
Is there-
then I'm happy to go through the factors.
We got a motion to do a amended. Is there support for that, you think here?
Support.
Perfect. Let's roll through the first set of standards.
Okay, we are looking at the standards in section 38-70. Number 1, that strict compliance with the zoning ordinance regulating the minimum area, yard setbacks, frontage, height, bulk or density or other regulations would render conformity with those restrictions of the zoning ordinance unnecessarily burdensome. In this case, we have a corner lot, which makes the property unique in its in how it's situated. When taking front yard averaging into account, the required front yard is 30 feet. Well, it's 29.75 feet. So I guess we're granting a variance of 0.25 feet. Is that what's happening?
I think so.
Okay, all right. Nevertheless, we still have to go through the factors. So unless you want to stipulate that would be 29.75 feet, in which case you wouldn't need a variance.
Oh, because I'm asking for 25. No,
Well, you asked for 25. My
Right.
motion is to approve it at 30.
Okay,
29.75 would be allowed
That would
without,
actually be permitted.
without a
Yeah,
variance.
so.
which means I don't come back for another variance.
Well, so essentially you would we would be withdrawing this request and you would change your plan to be 29.75 feet
I
along
see.
32nd, and then we would go on to the variance for the east side.
Fine. Yes, that's fine. 29.7, right?
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
No, you're basically
Thank you.
saying, hey, let's keep it at 4 inches, right? Isn't that what we're saying? 29.75?
29.75 feet would
So
be the
it's, so
setback.
you're giving up 4 inches and you don't have to ask for variance, is what you're saying, right?
Thank you for the clarification. This is why I have my assistant. Okay,
So
okay.
with that, I think the record can reflect.
Well, it's 40 feet, right, is what's required.
Well, the ordinance requires 40, but with the averaging, it's at 29.
At 29.75. So we're gonna say 30 and
So we're
Watch
gonna
it.
say 29.75, which
Which one
eliminates the need for the variance altogether. So.
Yep.
So I'll withdraw my motion as it's moved.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, thanks.
so we have agreement with the applicant to abide by the front yard averaging for the front yard setback off of 30 seconds, and then we'll move on to the rear yard setback at this point, correct? Mika, that's okay. So let's do that. So
Okay.
number one is void, and we'll move on to the rear setback.
Well, Mr.
East
Chair,
side.
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, okay.
That we approve the variance request for a rear yard setback of 10 feet where 25 is required.
So we have a motion for that. Do we have support here? All in favor? Aye.
Well.
Yeah, I have to vote. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
You could just roll through the,
All right.
Standards and
the
we'll-
standards,
Yep.
section 38-70. I already recited the first standard, that strict compliance with the zoning ordinance regulating the minimum area, yard setbacks, frontage, height, bulk or density or other regulation would render conformity with those restrictions of the zoning ordinance unnecessarily burdensome. Again, this is a corner lot, which presents some unique characteristics. If this was not a corner lot, then a 10-yard side setback would apply here. And so under the circumstances and taking into consideration the 2016 correspondence from the township, I believe that factor would be met. Second, that granting the requested variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to other property owners in the zoning district. This again would be an acceptable setback if this was not a corner lot. It does not appear to be a situation where a lesser relaxation would meet the needs of the property owner or would be necessary given how this house is situated, proposed to be situated on the parcel. And the neighboring home is separated by, appears to be some screening, also the garage. And so this 10-foot setback appears to be reasonable. It also allows the applicant to move the porch from the 32nd Street side back, which we just discussed, into the rear yard, giving less impact. Third, that the plight of the property owner is due to the unique circumstances of the property and not due to general conditions of the zoning district. The parcel is non-conforming in its size and as indicated as a corner lot. For those reasons, a standard may be met. And finally, that the practical difficulties alleged are not self-created. The conditions of this property are existing. The property owner did not do anything to create these difficulties. It appears that the applicant did due diligence in 2016. And this approval in conjunction with the applicant's agreement to comply with the permitted setback along 32nd Street appears to do substantial justice. So for those reasons, I believe that the factors have been met.
Okay, thanks, Morgan. So hearing that, we have a motion to approve and all in favor?
You want a roll call?
We got a roll call? All in favor? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yes.
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 Sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, you're approved, so.
Yes. I have one more question, and that's just about Leonard Street. I want to clarify that that is a 30-foot setback due to averages, right?
That's you.
Okay, yes, because I have that if it's somewhere communication, et cetera. Thank you all so much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Now we can go forward with the building. So,
Again,
okay. Thank you. for your
thank
time.
you. Okay. Moving on to hearing number 2. Mika, do you want to introduce us to that?
Yes, this is a relatively simple application. This is for an accessory building. It's located at 1260 Bentwood Court in the R3 zoning district. What is permitted by right is a 16-foot height for the accessory building. They are asking for 18 feet in height. They meet all the other requirements of the zoning district. There were several pieces of correspondence also connected with this application in all of it.
Perfect. The applicant is here, yeah. You can step forward and say your name, write it down, your address.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Wysocki and this is my wife, Amy Wysocki. Uh, 12, you want the address?
You can write your address down.
Okay.
And if there's anything you want to contribute to what you've already applied.
Yeah, so our builder was supposed to be here tonight. We're having
Oh.
Bill Mulholland build this small shed. The problem that we have, according to him, is if we have an 8-foot bottom floor and a 10-foot subfloor above that, that with this gambrel roof barn, that will leave us 6 feet upstairs. And I wanted to put the stairs outside so I don't take up all the space on the main floor of this small building. So to put a door in, essentially, we need the variance to do that. But so we'll have a small deck out the back that you'll see on there. It'll match the house. The building sits in kind of in a low hole. So I tried to note, you know, that it's not going to look, you know, too tall compared to the surrounding buildings. And it is set back pretty nicely from the front of both of the homes.
This is planned to set where the playground or your play equipment
Yep.
kind of is.
Yeah, it's basically the exact same outline as that playground.
Yep. Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant while we have them?
Mr. Chair, I just have a question.
Mhm.
You mentioned that you were agreeable to putting some kind of vegetative screen. Have you?
Yeah, so I talked to my neighbor about that. You know, we really like our privacy there. He said he really doesn't care if we do that or not. But I did try to go, you know, to all of my neighbors and show them these plans and have them write in a letter of support. So he was, you know, very supportive of the project and the height and all of that. But I plan on doing that, probably whether he likes it or not, because I think it'll look nice, but.
Well, the next neighbor might care.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes with those, you know, it helps to break up a
Right.
solid wall like that, so.
Yeah, we have a pool in the backyard, so I mean, we're very private, but I would like to put something in that 5-foot space.
Yep. Okay, anything else? The applicant? Nope. All right, I think you're all set.
Okay.
I guess for just a note, I guess we had pretty overwhelming, I think you guys set a record for the most neighbors, you know, being in your favor of a project like this. So that was pretty nice to see.
The neighbors like to watch our two little boys run around, so yeah, they know who we are.
I think we saw, at least I saw 7 in favor, so,
Admit it.
okay, thank you. So this time I'll open it up for a public hearing for anyone here to speak for or against this. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for board discussion. Yeah, so we're just lifting this thing up an additional 2 feet beyond what's required, it sounds like, to gain that loft area and a door and an exit out the back of it up high. So
5 feet is allowed because of an accessory building. So
yeah, correct. So this is only, we're only talking about height. And we've got,
it dips down.
yeah, so yeah, I read what, 6 feet? I thought that topography drops in that area. You can see that too when you're out there, but
Mr. Chair, I do have one other question for the applicant, if I may.
Yep.
This drawing or this depiction, so you indicated the door will be on the back, which I saw.
That picture shows the front and the back.
Okay, that's
One
what
picture.
I wanted to confirm. This is on the front.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is gonna be on the back with the wood deck
Yeah.
that we saw. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Looks a little dangerous.
Yeah.
that's what I figured was going on there too. Just to show
Just
the door fits up there.
I have a question for the applicant.
Yes, Dennis.
Is there any kind of a platform in front of that door? How do you expect to
Yeah,
utilize it?
we're gonna build a 4-foot deck that'll walk right down to our yard. So it'll be wide enough to open the door. It shows it just off the back there.
Oh, I see. That's where he's gonna put the
Yeah,
stairs.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so our next step here, looking for a motion to approve this accessory building height only using 38,491 standards. Got 5.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to adopt the ordinance revision or leaning. And I'd like to go through the standards, if you'd like.
Yeah, so we've got a motion. Will we have support? All right, let's go through them, Vince.
Based on section 38,491. The first standard would be the height of the accessory building in relation to the size of the lot on which it is placed. And the increase in height overall seems to be in keeping with the size of the parcel. So I think that this standard can be met. The second standard is the height of the accessory building in relation to the principal building on the lot which the accessory building is to be placed. And the height appears to be proportional to the primary structure. And so I think that this standard can be met. The third standard is the location of the accessory building in relation to other buildings on adjacent or adjoining lots and in relation to the principal building on the lot. The proposed accessory building is located as close to the property line as is permitted. So I feel that this standard can be met as well. The next standard is whether or not the accessory building will affect light, air circulation on any adjoining property. And the additional height seems unlikely to be detrimental to the neighboring property, so I believe that this standard can be met as well. And finally, the last standard, whether the accessory building will adversely affect the adjoining property or the view from the adjoining property. Now, it seems unlikely that the added height will be detrimental to the neighboring property, so I feel that this standard can be met as well.
I think we want to, do we need to have any condition for vegetative buffer or something along that structure as well to help?
Appropriate as that indicated some desire to do that.
I think if they're willing to do it, I think we push to see that. So if we could have that condition, yep.
Would you like me to put that in?
I think, yeah, I think that would be,
Okay, based on meeting these standards and with the condition that you put the adequate landscaping screening, I would, I'd move to accept this concession.
we agree. All right. Thanks, Dennis. So we'll take a roll call.
Morgan.
Yes.
Mr. Eden.
Yes.
Mr. Sardi.
Yes.
Mayor Skelly.
Yes. All right,
Thank you.
motion passes. You got your variance. Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to hearing number 3. Mika, if you can give her a second here. All right, I think we'll move on to hearing number 3. Mika, if you were able to introduce us to that one.
So this is a request to allow the expansion of an existing accessory building that is non-conforming with regard to setbacks. This is at 3241 Lake Shore Drive. You can see kind of where that's located, the map here. The primary structure here was torn down not that long ago, about a year and a half ago, and a new structure was rebuilt. The accessory building remained on the property at that time. And the applicant is now asking to refurbish it. And it's not changing the footprint, but increasing the height and changing the design. So because of that, it's an expansion of within an existing non-conforming setback. So Ms. Morgan and I did have some correspondence about this late this afternoon. We were talking about the use of this accessory structure and her request I put together some definitions and whatnot that was on the dais in front of you. If that's something that you would like to discuss as well. This is a variance under section 483, and there are 3 standards for this.
Question for staff. The principal dwelling, do we have any plans for what is the size and the layout?
Yeah, so the principal dwelling is already there. And my recollection is that it was at or near the height maximum, so it's 2.5 stories or thereabouts 35 feet. The applicants are here along with their architect, so they can also answer some questions about that more specifically.
Thank you.
Okay. If the applicant is here, well, you could step forward and state your name, write your name and address.
Craig Bade,
Great.
nice sign right here. Now, do I write the address?
Your
one
address.
That we're talking about, or our other home?
Your primary residence.
Your primary,
Primary. res-
Which one is it?
I'll
For tax purposes.
Walkazoo,
Where you're registered to vote.
yeah. Yes, do you want me to explain the situation? We wanted to raise the roof to accommodate trophies. I hunt, and my wife at her present house, was nice enough to allow me to have a trophy room. And I filled it. And so I have 60 mounts that are shoulder mount or bigger. And they're personal to me, and they're kind of a monument to the animal. And I'd like to bring that and just have a storage area for them by increasing the height of the walls so I can put more animals on the walls than the lower walls of an average size garage. And this garage would mimic but be further set away from the house than our neighbors to the south. As far as height, but smaller, it would be smaller than theirs.
Okay.
So, no, so if you look at the photo, if you look at the bottom photo of the existing garage.
Can you step up to the podium?
Oh, Amy Bade, co-owner
Okay.
of this place, the one that gave him permission with the trophies. So you will see the newest structure here, and when the property was actually demolished, it was probably like 4 to 5 years ago, actually, and the lot sat vacant with the exception of that garage building, which is specifically why we bought the property, with the idea that Craig could have a place to put his trophies, and I could finally get the trophies that I didn't have to look at them all the time. So the new structure is in the back there. So the goal here was to have a place for Craig to have showcase his trophies, and to also come in line design wise with the new structure, which is pretty modern. Okay, and that is basically all done. So that's where we're at.
So now it's gonna be mine. Andy Bear, the architect. One thing that they haven't pointed out that I think is important here is that we're trying to salvage something, there's a perfectly good foundation there, and it happens to be 2.5 feet off of the setback. The setback is 10 feet on the side yard there, and it's about 7.6 feet or something like that from the survey that was taken. I'm told that some 30, 40 years ago-ish, the surveying out there was so poor that this could easily have just been off. So, and from the standpoint of the ordinance, this structure stands far away from all of the main residences. The primary residences are all on the lakefront. There's several houses. Some of the photos, I think, have some other accessory buildings. I think this is not out of context whatsoever. We're trying to do this economically and reasonably. We could start over and have a bigger, taller building if we moved it over a few feet. So I think that made sense to me when we talked about it.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicants or architect? No. Okay. Going to open up for a public hearing for anyone who's here that wants to speak for or against this item. Seeing nothing, I'm going to close the public hearing and open it up for board discussion. So we're only talking about the setback here, Mika. There's nothing in regards to height that needs to be a variance here, correct? So strictly the setback that's non-conforming to the existing building. Okay. I did not see this in person, but I don't know if anybody else did, but it looks contextually like it's pretty concealed back there. Mm-hmm.
The lot is 800 feet deep.
800, yeah.
840, and this is, well, I think it's on the site plan how far that is from the property. It's back, way back off the road, and significantly away from the houses too.
484 feet, it says.
And a couple of hundred from the face of the houses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not very formally, but we do have, they did ask the neighbors immediately adjacent if they were okay with it. They were fine with it.
Jordan?
Just I had a few thoughts.
Mhm.
I can appreciate the applicant wanting to be environmentally and financially conscientious, in reusing this existing structure. My concern is that what is being proposed takes it outside of the definition of an accessory use or structure. And I say that because when I'm looking at these plans, this is going from a detached garage, what we'd customarily see as a garage doors, to a building with no garage doors, kitchen facilities, toilet room, freestanding fireplace.
No. It was a mini split.
No, she's talking about fireplace. There's not a kitchen, it's just a place to put a refrigerator and a counter.
A refrigerator and a sink, okay,
Right, yeah,
so.
there's no cooking, you can't sleep there, well, you cook.
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Should I
Yeah,
ask
sorry.
if the applicants are going to be, if the applicants are going to respond, if they could go up to the microphone.
Yeah.
So we can record.
Sorry. Yeah, if you could
Sorry.
interject with the
To
microphone.
clarify, as I understand the ordinance, habitable, it's not habitable because we are not putting a full kitchen in. That's how I interpreted the ordinance when I read through it quite some time ago. So that's an accessory building that you can't live in year round, or however, I'm not sure how it's worded. But that was how I read it.
Okay, so to finish my thought, an accessory use or a structure has to be of a nature customarily incidental and subordinate to the principal use. In my opinion, regardless of whether this meets the technical definition of a dwelling unit, which I think is what
It is not a dwelling unit, correct? Yeah.
that what's being proposed does not appear, in my opinion, to be of a nature customarily incidental to the principal use being a single family dwelling. I say that not only because of the use of the phrase customarily incidental and subordinate, but also looking at how the township treats accessory uses or structures. We don't allow, for example, a home occupation in an accessory building. So I see taking this trophy room from a home into the separate building the same as taking an office from a home into the separate building. I don't personally see that as a use that is customarily incidental and subordinate to a single family home. Those are just my thoughts on that. And I just want to share those thoughts with the ZBA.
Okay,
Certainly open.
Thank you.
To discussion, but, that is-
May I, am I free to comment?
if you could, that'd be great.
I feel like there's a difference between a home office and this incidental space. This is like a playroom or living room for a gentleman who loves his hunting to go hang out in. He's not operating a business, which from my perspective, businesses, sort of indicate that people might come visit. You might have customers coming and going, that other types of activities would occur that would make it different than the type of use that he's trying to do there. Yeah, there's no business being operated, so.
Will it be heated in the wintertime?
Yes,
And there's a refrigerator, there's running water?
yes.
Then I concur with my colleague.
I would also agree on that. The code book states a 1 and 2 family dwelling has to have a kitchen and everything that you're gonna live in. This is not a 1 and 2 family dwelling. However, it's all, since it's being heated and there's a toilet room in there, sink, it's still habitable. You can still live in there. It's like a 4-season room, if you will.
call it a guest house.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the amenity missing is the range or something like that, right? So if none of those elements existed in this plan that we're seeing, I mean, is that a condition that can be set upon approval here if those were to disappear? Then, you know,
Put the garage, leave the garage. We talked about having a garage door.
Well, and
I'm just-
I mean, if I can respond to that,
Yep.
the garage door, the significance of that, in my opinion, is that when we're looking at variances, the variance is gonna run with the land. So you might say, we're gonna use it for X, Y, and Z. If you sell the property and the next property owner moves in and you have this large of a structure with 2 single doors, no garage doors, you can imagine what it lends itself to. And so the township has an interest in looking into the future to see how is this going to be used? How do we confirm that it's going to be used consistent with the ordinances? That, in my opinion, is the significance of having such a large accessory building with no garage door. It'd be customary and incidental, in my opinion, to use it for storage of personal items. So I do think the absence of a garage door was significant, in my opinion.
They do list guest houses here as an accessory building. When I think of this, I think of a guest house.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
We use it for that.
No,
We would not approve any. We would not approve something that had a full secondary dwelling unit on the same property. That's not, I think that's probably a definition that's been around for a long time.
I think
Where some of these things
So
are,
I'd like
but
to stay away
yeah,
too.
when I was evaluating it, I had very similar
Yes.
concerns. There's not a shower, and so there was an element I think that was missing. There were 1 or 2 small elements that were missing, but I too felt as well that it was very close to that line.
it seems like 38-491B1C covers it, and that it says no accessory building or structure shall include residential or living quarters for human beings. So, and again, we're not, the allegation is not that you're using it or intending to use it. We're talking generally. I can sense the reaction, but
I'm just saying.
But people hang out in their accessory buildings.
they do.
They do.
They do, and you know they do. And so what I hear you saying is that if there's a garage door and no toilet,
Or can we just have no toilet and get rid of, and, you know,
yeah, where do
a
you want
garage
to
door is gonna take up trophies that I'm gonna have to get rid of. I'm gonna have to get rid of many of them anyway, and if I don't need a garage door, I can add a few more of the trophies there and not have a bathroom, if that's, you know, if that would be acceptable. What is living? I can sleep in my car, you know. There's no oven, no stove, a single room.
I mean, it's really an eyesore. I'm telling you, it's really terrible looking. That's part of it. It was part of the old, supposed to be demolished. And when we bought the property, we found out it was supposed to be demolished. It wasn't. So then we're like, oh, okay, we'll turn it into a trophy room accessory building. So, but like I said, people hang out in their accessory buildings. They do. And if the requirement is to have a garage door, we can do that, you
I
know.
would rather get rid of the bathroom. than get
Yeah.
rid of the garage door,
Like what
because the
do we need
purpose
to
is
do?
Have the trophies, and that's gonna be a number of trophies less.
May I ask,
Please.
a question? Are you aware of any other accessory structures of this type of design that have been approved in the township?
I have not approved any that I remember. Not that I remember all of them, but I will say that there are some pole barns that do have toilets and sinks in them.
Correct.
Sometimes people put a wet barn in the middle. of
Yeah,
the well. And so that was one of the things that I was considering, and if as you move forward with this, the more you can define that for me, that would be really helpful, because I found it's really great area as far as which switches it from an accessory building with an amenity over into habitable living space.
And I think that's what we're all
But no, I'm not aware of something with these qualities having been approved in the past.
May I be hypothetical then?
If I could
Because-
add to Mika's, now that I'm thinking about this. They're all over in Park Township and other areas, whereas you have quite a nice pool house, if you will. With a bar and a bathroom and people hang out in those. So I can relate to that.
And I mean, we started this process and applied for variance because of the setback on the side. An accessory building, whether it has amenities in it or not, if we start from scratch, I'm wondering now out loud that if we came to just get a building permit and we'd met all the requirements and never needed to bother, what would get approved? Because we could easily and considered that. We said, but they spent more money on the house than they wanted to, and they were trying to cut costs. So let's reuse this structure. We've got plenty of room. We can go bigger, taller. And we could have theoretically just come in for a building permit to the township to say, hey, we have this accessory building and we happen to have a sink and a bathroom in it. And would it have been permitted without any questions?
No.
Wouldn't have?
No, we had that conversation.
Okay.
So what's before us right now is an accessory building in question that is non-conforming with regard to side setback. And the applicant would like to increase the height of the structure. So, I mean, it was already before you, right, to kind of look at maybe the usage. It's hard to separate the two. I get it. I don't know, if the usage aspect of all of this would have been something you've already kind of, been floundering over already to say, nah, I just don't know if we should be focusing on that.
Can it be
Or not.
labeled a guest house? Is that a different variance, a different requirement here?
Mm-mm.
Not allowed. Okay, thank you. Because it seems like that to me. It seems more of a guest house type building. Like humble living, like an accessory
Well,
building.
Well, to Lauren's comment, I mean, yeah, that's true. There's a lot of cases where something similar to this kind of exists, and we all know they kind of do, but just the way this is presented is causing us to question it because it's in front of us and drawn specifically showing it. I'm just wondering if it didn't, if it didn't show any of that, it was just a box and didn't show anything inside of this thing. We were just looking at setbacks. Is it something we would ask for more detail on to, gain a little better insight of what the function was? Probably.
I think consistent with how we've handled
Yeah.
applications in the past, we would be requesting the drawings, we would have questions for the applicant about the use, so I think
Yep.
the discussion and the process is
Mhm.
consistent with how we've handled this in the past. And you can't, I think it's difficult to separate. Like you mentioned, we're here talking about the height, that's the request, but it is tied to the proposal.
Mhm.
It's, can't divorce those two things.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, accessory buildings are probably the most contentious issue that this board rules in. And it's my feeling that this would only exacerbate it further, and we're going to get other requests that fall outside the scope of what an accessory building is supposed to be.
I think that's a really good point, Dennis. And to Crystal's comment about
I have a comment.
past, hearings we've had, there's nothing really that's been similar to this that shows the extent of the usage, like has become questioned here to make us ponder that, but go ahead. You got a question.
I'm just confused how this does not, so if there's trophies hanging on the wall and there's a garage door, nobody's living there. And like I said, people hang out in their garages. They sit in their garages. They have open houses in their garages. So I'm not sure how this doesn't fit the criteria for an accessory building. It's not a guest house. It's not a guest house. It's not a separate residence. We know all that. We've been through, I understand that.
I guess the thing that's got to be clear to us on our side to know those things is what distinctly makes it an accessory and not a dwelling. So things such as, you know, a range or a shower or a bathtub or something like that for long-term use.
It wasn't. habitable.
Exactly.
You don't live in it
Yeah,
continuously,
And
because you
then,
can't cook and you can't bathe. That's
Yeah.
how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
And I think my earlier comments were not necessarily geared toward it being a dwelling, but looking at the definition of an accessory use or structure states, quote, of a nature customarily incidental and subordinate to the principal use. The fact that this is the first time we're seeing a request to turn a garage into finished living, not living space in the sense of sleeping. But finished in the sense that the garage doors are being removed, it's essentially finished space. It, in my opinion, does not fall into that category of being something that's customarily incidental.
Well, to me, incidental means that it can't survive on its own. I mean, it would be incidental because it can't. And if it sat there without the house, what would you do with it? Not that we're going to have an office in there, but if you have an office, it's your home office. You could have a home office that's attached to the house and it's a finished room. So to me, it is incidental to the structure because it can't survive on its own. It can't house somebody without the use of the house adjacent for any length of time.
And the word incidental has a specific meaning, but customarily incidental to a single family home has a separate meaning. The word customarily is, I think, to Dennis's point too, when we're looking at the scope of an accessory building and what use is occurring there, the customarily incidental is an important element of that. I think there are changes that could be made that would take the proposed structure, in my opinion, into the category of being the type of accessory structure that is contemplated by the ordinance.
I have one question for your trophies. I love trophies. They're interesting. Do you have a moose? Oh, good. I'm from Alaska. My question though is for these trophies, you have to have some sort of climate control in this building, don't you? I mean, otherwise there's troubles with the trophies. They have to be kept cool in the summer and warm in the winter, you know, some sort of.
Yeah, but I have a crocodile on the ceiling and if it gets too humid, it starts to smell.
I'm a little concerned because of the law or the rules in a county about. You know, maybe no one's gonna live there now, but someday when you're not around, it could be a living space, and then we just keep, inching toward guest houses and things that aren't in our purview, and this is not what we normally see as an accessory building. I can understand the purpose, and I think it's, a nice idea, but it doesn't fall into the category.
I apologize, but I'm confused because I've been in so many accessory buildings for parties. They're heated, they have a bar, people throw parties in there. And I would not ever, I've read the ordinance, I saw that, and I thought, this doesn't meet those requirements. That's my honest, I wouldn't have lived down the street.
so I'm coming back again to the definition that's written. And it does, it says without limitation of the foregoing definition of an accessory building, the following buildings are hereby determined to be accessory buildings. And it lists garages, storage buildings, guest houses, boathouses, greenhouses, playhouses. It's an adult playhouse, but pool equipment, storage buildings and pump houses. That guest houses being in there kind of really is a,
I think you have to read that in conjunction with 38,491, which is the accessory building section that says no accessory building or structure shall include residential or living quarters. So I agree with Mika, that's probably an oversight in the
Mhm.
definition, but
so,
38-491, I don't know off the top of my head, but I think that was just amended recently within the last few years, so that would reflect the current
yeah,
intent.
It would override this, yeah. This,
that's up to our interpretations, right? I mean,
Which they take guest house over there.
I'm gonna add-
or by definition, tell us what a guest house is.
Yeah.
Well, and it'll be on the long list, but on the list. I would agree that the accessory building one would typically rule because it's specifically addressing that particular use.
And to circle back, they're not requesting a guest house, they're not requesting
Right,
a dwelling use.
Well, what would a guest house be? I guess it was-
Well, you can't have a guest house then.
I mean, if I was a guest in a guest house, from my experience, I'd be able to sleep in it. But that's, doesn't seem like that, the code and ordinances that Ms. Morgan was referring to kind of extinguishes that thought completely. So I guess, I don't know, I'm hearing quite a struggle here for a motion to get set, but unless there's conditions set upon it. So I don't know. Board, if we've got a motion either way on this, or if the applicant feels like maybe there needs to be a different alternative route taken, if they don't like what is being discussed up here, but
Okay, so what you're saying, you're gonna vote on this now, and then we could actually, we could come back and apply for a permit? A building permit? You know what's the ironic thing about this that kind of slays me about this whole thing? Is that when we bought that property, there was no house. The house was demolished. There was a demolition permit through Park Township, and they never completed the job. And that little yellow ugly garage was standing there. It wasn't even supposed to be there.
We had to give him $5,000.
Right,
and
it
that's
wasn't even supposed to be there.
Hmm.
And we said, oh, we'll turn that into a trophy room, the extra garage.
place
So
to put it.
it's just a very interesting twist to this whole thing.
mm,
And it really is just supposed to be a container for these trophies. I almost felt like we said too much. We probably should have said it was just going to be another garage. But we were very honest in terms
Yeah.
of what it was. And I do ask you to please consider that. It would beautify the area. The thing is ugly. And it kind of takes away from our neighbors as well. And just please reconsider. Thanks.
thank you. I guess I'm putting it back into our court.
Rules, trying
Mhm.
to interpret what the law or that's our problem. That's. I mean, reading
When did you buy the property?
I gotta remember, it sat there empty. I think it was,
When we started.
when did we start building?
Oh, when we started designing in 21.
Yeah, and I think we bought it the year before.
in twin.
And yeah, the demolition was like a couple of years before. It was a pile of sand
Mhm.
with the yellow garage.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I understand that a garage door eliminates a lot of your wall space, and that's a concern that you
Yeah, I'm
Is-
not gonna.
let me finish, please. You are showing two doors. Is it possible to consider a double door situation? Possibly eliminate two separate doors to exchange that for a double door, which then lends itself in the future to opening this structure for storage of things that we would consider to be customarily incidental to the use of a single family home. Does that make sense?
We're willing to do it. I don't know if it makes sense, but we're willing to do it.
I'm gonna vote on his behalf, yes.
Yeah,
Not a problem.
that's okay.
We'll put a header in there for a future garage and double doors, absolutely.
Because what I'm hearing is that the presence of the toilet room and the sink is consistent with some other approvals in the township. For pole barns. So in that case, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to require removal of those items, especially given how far this structure is from the home to have to walk back and forth. I understand the reasonableness of that.
Right.
In my opinion, having the double doors and the header for a future garage door transforms this into more of a customary accessory building, in my opinion. And it sounds like the applicant would be willing to do that. I don't know.
We will leave the header that's there, in fact. If we can salvage it, there's the garage door, we'll just fill it in and put doors in that, somewhere in that vicinity.
What kind of doors are we thinking on this side?
Well, that's where it is now. It seems like the existing garage door would be on that south
On
wall,
the south wall.
right?
Yep.
So it sounds like we've got somewhat of a closer verdict here. Well, I think there's a concession here for the header to remain, so it can be adapted into something that's more customarily incidental in the future, as Ms. Morgan is alluding to help promote that building to being something else than, and then not being mistaken as a dwelling unit.
Miko, if I may ask you, would that be more in keeping with the types of applications that you see, just design wise?
This is really kind of different. I can't say that I've seen something like this. A pole barn is typically quite a bit bigger, you know, it's similarly far from the house. It usually has that garage purpose in addition. But
And it usually has plumbing in it.
I wouldn't say usually, but it's not unheard of. And I don't refuse a pole barn, you know, that's quite a distance from the house that has plumbing, that has water.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see mop sinks and, janitorial sinks and stuff like that being something there for usage and outdoor. Plumbing here just happens to be for something a little bit more finished and polished, It is a gray situation you're putting us in, but I think
Sorry about that, Dave.
some of these concessions, are may possibly get us.
Well, you couldn't hang as many things.
And that's the applicant's point, is that the point of the wall is for that. But I think that their willingness to have that header in there for knocking it out in the future provides that ability to probably do both, right? You've got the ability to add that garage door in the future, or the double doors is another great example of, right away an immediate solution to show access for large pieces of what, a mower or whatever would be, being able to be pulled into these things for something that's more customarily incidental.
In my mind, I would think that they'd be okay with it if they're not in trouble, but where the garage door is now, we would put a double door in that, somewhere in that wall space, and the other two doors would probably get eliminated. They probably would, because there's not any reason, there's not the distance required. With the one door on the west wall was purposeful because there's going to be parking and landscaping eventually out there and maybe a fire pit and whatnot. So that that connection from a landscape standpoint to the house was why there's a door there. But if it's right around the corner where the garage is now, that's not an issue.
Well, what we've heard, are we willing to make a motion either way? Yep.
We need to see redesign before.
Uh,
And then back.
Because it's
Normally not.
verbally documented, we could,
I think you are welcome to ask for that. You could ask them to come back. I think it's more common for the Board of Appeals to stay here on conditions. But that's at your discretion. You can do either.
mhm.
You would see, right, it's you.
Yeah, we would annotate what that compromise would be, and then hopefully you see that and
Yeah,
agree
put
to
that
it.
into the system, and then as I'm doing zoning reviews, oh, there are conditions on this one, they have to have X, Y, and Z in order to do this.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Is there a specific height that is being requested? I'm seeing between 12 and 20.
I think it's 20, the roof height, there's variation in the roof height because of the design, so I think it's 12 in one point, and it's 20 in the other. For a structure of this size, 20 meets the height requirement.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion
Okay,
to approve the request to enlarge this existing non-conforming accessory building consistent with the plans presented, but on the condition that in the location of the existing garage, the garage header remain and that double doors or a garage door be installed. I believe that would be and also the condition that it not be used as for dwelling purposes or as a residential dwelling unit.
okay,
Adding that, and I just note that adding that again, not because we're concerned that this applicant is going to use it as a dwelling unit, but so that when the future owner comes to the township to ask what they can do, it's clear. Okay.
Support.
You wanna try to run
I'll
through the
go
standards?
Standards,
Please.
looking at the standards in section 38-483E2. First, that the proportion of the main wall, we're looking at the proportion of the main wall which has been altered by the addition. Here, I agree with the staff comments that state the massing of the proposed structure is quite a bit different than the structure that currently exists. According to the plan submitted, the peak will increase from 16 to 20 feet, approximately 25 feet, 25% increase. However, the record does reflect that this structure is a considerable distance from the neighbors' homes, and that the proportion of the main wall that has been altered by the addition will not have an adverse effect on the neighbors. The second factor, that the overall effect of the proposed addition on the adjoining properties and character of the surrounding neighborhood, again, weighs in favor of granting this application, because there will be little to any effect on the character of the neighborhood given the location of this structure in relation to other structures. Finally, that the addition shall not be less than 5 feet from the side and rear lot lines and shall not be less than 10 feet from the front lot line. This standard has been met because the existing structure is 7 foot 6 inches from the side lot line, and the footprint remains unchanged. And finally, I would just note that the conditions imposed were an attempt to bring this proposed building or expansion into compliance with the definition of an accessory use or structure and what's contemplated by the ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. I think that's a fair assessment. We take a roll call, please.
Mr. Stern,
Yes.
Ms. Handle. Yes. Mr. Edy,
Yes,
Ms. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Yurley.
Yes. All right, with some conditions, I think we got your variance. So appreciate you working through it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
before you start the next one.
Yes.
I'm gonna recuse myself from the next two hearings because it's relation.
Okay. All right. All right, Lauren's recused himself from public hearing number 4 and 5. So take note of that. And with that, can you introduce us, Mika, to hearing number 4?
Indeed, I would actually introduce number 4 and number 5 speak in more detail to 5 if you would like when you get to that one. So these are separated into 2 applications because this is occurring on what is 2 parcels, and so those needed to be separated. The applicant would like to build a house on the northern parcel. There's an accessory building that is built directly on the property line. We've discussed this as staff. This is not something that we would allow to happen now, when it would just be conjecture to figure out why that was permitted in the past. In order to split this now and keep the accessory building, which is the goal of the applicant, on the southern parcel, which is not, I think the first one is for the northern parcel. On the southern parcel, there is a setback issue in order to move that property line. On the northern parcel, moving that property line means you have 2 things. One is an accessory building that is unattended at the moment. The intent is to build within the next several months. And second, the accessory building is sized for the current parcel size, which means that the accessory building now on the smaller parcel is larger than is permitted under the zoning ordinance. So I'm not allowed to process a lot split that doesn't meet the requirements of the zoning district. So the real question is, I think the core question is, does the Board of Appeals want to see this accessory building stay and make accommodations around it, or say remove the accessory building and then the accommodations wouldn't be needed? That is something that we do require, and not on a fairly regular basis with lot splits. We don't allow orphan accessory buildings. To me, one of the differences is that there's a very clear plan in a short timeline, and it's staying with the same property owner for the time being. So more specifically to number 4, there are 2 questions then with regard to this. You have the accessory buildings, is a variance accessory building where no primary structure is present, and that's with the 4 standards for the variance. And then you have the administrative approval standards for accessory building size for an accessory building that's larger than permitted in a district, and that's the 5 standards for that. And the applicant is here as well, and
Okay. Okay, this time, yeah, let's ask the applicant up to come up to if they would, if they have more to add to the introduction.
Yeah, hi, I'm Barbara Solis. And I'm going to turn it over to my contractor. And my husband, Alfredo.
Hey. Hi.
Okay.
My name is Matt Frayne. I'm a builder. I spent a little time in township work. Hi, Crystal. The Solises brought this to my attention. They're like, hey, we would like to sell this house and downsize and move in on the James Deep property. And I went out there and looked at it. And I'm like, we have some concerns here. Somebody built this barn on the wrong property, or it wasn't all together at one time, or there was a mistake made. I don't know if it was her husband's had a bad measuring tape, or who knows? Life happens. I've spent 26 years in township work. I know life happens. So what we're asking for is exactly what Mika said. A variance, let that building stand on its own. It's a little bit too big for that district, but we want to build a home there. We don't think the structure is in rough shape. The trophies that might be in it might be some mice and some snakes at this point in time, but overall, it's a very good structure. And we want to keep that structure. It accesses off of James Street. It doesn't make sense. Its garage doors are off of James Street, not off of Maricopa. Thank you. So it makes sense to stay with the James Street property. And we would love to keep it because it's a very good structure still.
It's a newer structure than the Maricopa home. It was built.
Yeah, it was built, what would say 91, 92-ish. And we don't know, I don't know what the zoning was at that point in time. That could play in a role. But it might have been allowed back then. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. So we're asking for, hey, we want to build a new home. This garage is going to go with the new home. And then the backyard, there's a backyard and a side yard concern, I think. I don't know how that is really interpreted with Park Township, because the garage really is kind of in the side yard, not necessarily in the backyard in my interpretation, but sometimes there's little screwy rules when it comes to cul-de-sacing and that kind of thing. So am I right on that ish?
Yeah, in this case, it's back there.
Okay, yeah. So we're at the mercy of the ZBA we're here to answer questions.
Okay. All right, appreciate that. So at this time, if there's anyone in the audience, I'll open up for public hearing. If anyone is here that wants to speak for or against this item. Seeing head shaking, no. Close public hearing and open it up for board discussion. Do we have any questions for the applicant? I guess I got, my first question is, how soon do you think you're going to build on this property?
When we did this part of it.
As soon as you get this part done?
We've been in plan and design for the last couple of months.
Okay.
Quotes are coming back right now, so we're getting ready to pull the trigger.
And that's what we see here. This is the new plan. I'm just curious what the time frame was with the property sitting vacant.
So would there be a need to put a time restriction or from the
I-
township's perspective?
I think that was certainly something that we could do. Or if, in the case of the demolition, as Mr. Baker alluded to, sometimes we'll require a bond to be posted until the non-conforming situation has been resolved. So that would be another alternative.
So our first, we got two standards, Mika, you alluded to it, right? First one is for the parcel for an accessory building where no primary structure is present. I go through those standards as one sub review, and then the next review would be for standard just for the size of it. Not related to setbacks or anything like that that gets created from it.
No, so there is on the east side of that accessory structure, it's closer than is currently permitted. It's also, it's not something that would come up in a land division because it's not a new setback. So that one would be existing. The new setbacks for this are all conforming. So, and that's where you run into difficulty in the back, but for the accessory building, there's, I think it's 25 feet to the south, 10 feet to the west, if I'm
Correct.
remembering correctly.
Yep.
Those are all conforming.
This does not exempt from any sort of future work that has to happen to this thing probably in the future, though, if they decide, right? I mean, this is allowed and they want to do more work to it, they got to come back again because, well, no, because it would be conforming at that point. Sorry, never mind. Never mind. Okay. All right, so the first item we're up against is just whether or not this could be allowed on this parcel. Sounds like we got a primary structure coming, but nothing yet, so there's the issue, right? So we've got 1, 2, We got 5 items to go through on that first review.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve allowing this existing accessory building to be located on a parcel where no primary structure is present, with the condition that this be a temporary approval to expire after 12 months if there's no primary dwelling.
Started or
Substantial.
something under construction or something.
Yeah, substantial construction.
Okay. All right. We have a support here for that.
Support.
Okay.
One question, Mika, with Lauren out, are we still okay here for quorum?
Yes, it still needs to be a majority, so it needs to be
Okay.
it needs to be a majority of the total ZBA. So
Okay.
3 out
All
of
right.
4.
Okay, sorry.
Good that.
All right, thanks.
Now's the time to.
Yes.
Okay, so we go through the standards in section 38-70, which you've heard earlier tonight, but we'll go through them again. First, that strict compliance with the zoning ordinance regulating the minimum area, yard setbacks, frontage, height, bulk, or density, or other regulation would render conformity with those restrictions of the zoning ordinance unnecessarily burdensome. In this case, we have an existing accessory building, and the regulation requiring accessory buildings to be on parcels with a primary structure creates the difficulty of preventing the property line from being moved prior to home construction. For that reason, the standard is met. Second, that granting the requested variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to other property owners in the zoning district. In this case, the requested variance would do justice to the property owner in that they can retain the existing accessory building that still has utility and a desire to be retained. And that it would also be trading an existing long-term nonconformity for what the applicant represents as a short-term nonconformity. That is expected to result in a largely confirming plan. For all of these reasons, this standard may be met. Third, that the plight of the property owner is due to the unique circumstances of the property, not to general conditions of the zoning district. There is nothing to suggest that this is due to the general conditions of the zoning district. This is not a common situation, as staff has indicated. This is the first accessory building that staff is aware of that was built on a property line. Finally, that the practical difficulties alleged are not self-created. It is unclear what the applicant's participation was in the process that resulted in this accessory building being situated where it is. However, based on the application materials and the discussion tonight, it appears that the applicant did not cause this situation that has brought them here tonight, and therefore the standard may be met.
Okay. Great. All right, this moment we'll take a roll call on that review.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. Moving on to our next issue, the subsequent review here for approving the standards for the accessory building size. Looking for a motion for that aspect of this. Again, it's square footage wise, we're over. Yeah, roughly 300 square feet of what's allowable, right? Based on what I'm reading.
Can you speak to the height of the accessory building compared to the home that's being proposed to be built?
Can I put this up a little bit? Okay, so James Street is elevated and off of James Street, there's probably a good 15-foot drop that goes down, and then the accessory structure is back to the back corner of that. So from James Street, you're probably only like 4 or 5 feet above James Street for the peak. Coming from Maricopa, it's a gambrel, so you're probably at most 16 to 18 feet tall, is my guess. I didn't put a tape on it, but you have an 8-foot sidewall and then probably another 8 foot above it, so probably 16 to 18 feet.
Mr. Chairman, did staff find any issues with the height?
Because it's an existing structure, that wasn't one of the things that I was looking at.
Thank you.
So by what I'm reading here, 2% is kind of allowable. We're up to about 3.5%. Based on the calculations when you do them for the parcel size and allowing an accessory building. Or limiting the accessory building size. So.
Mr. Chair, they're on a smaller parcel, the ZBA in the past, and I'm trying to remember which one it was, has approved larger percentage-wise structures. Sometimes that's been more with a detached garage. But there was one fairly recently, it was on the south side in Jennison Park that was looked at, so. yeah,
Multiple
sometimes
acres.
What's that?
Multiple acres, right?
No, this
Or
was,
not?
this was a very small parcel in one of those, historic neighborhoods.
Okay.
I wanna say that it was, well, it's possible that that was an administrative. No, I thought you heard it, it was about a 5,000 square foot lot.
I recall that. I recall
It's
it.
possible there's,
Hmm.
that those sizes can be done administratively with notice to neighbors and
Yep.
whatnot, it's possible that was the case.
Garages out in front of those houses there.
Yeah, that they could kind of go off of the alley. Yeah,
Oh.
yep, it was in that area.
Okay,
Remember that?
I do remember that.
So the lot.
It was just a couple of meetings ago.
Consistent with,
Yeah, it's not uncommon for us, I know, to go above 2%.
Right.
It's just like, what do we benchmark for that? Or how do we set? Because we usually try to come up with some reasoning as to why it's going to be allowable to be beyond it.
well, it seems a little easier in this case where you have an existing building.
Yeah.
You can see how it's situated, where it is in proximity to other existing homes. We don't have to try to guess.
Right.
What the impact would be on the neighbors.
Right.
The neighbors are pretty used to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been there for quite some time and. The only problem is in the future, if we're being adjacent to the house on the south property, right? I mean, that's the only. Yeah, it's the only negative to it all being there, but I mean, you live with it. I know it's fine now, but right, we always think about the next property owner and like, oh yeah. How far away from
But
it?
it's gonna go to
Yeah.
the house on James.
Right.
It's gonna go with that one.
With that one, but it still sits where it sits in relationship to the
Yeah.
current home.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
the board doesn't have any further questions. I would like to make a motion to give administrative approval to the applicant's request.
Sounds great. We got a motion to approve. You want to try to go through that?
Sure.
We got support for that?
Support.
Okay.
Okay. For approval, we have to refer to section 38,491. First standard being the area of accessory building in relation to the size of the lot on which it is to be placed. And the size of the amended parcel as proposed would be 19,170 square feet. 2% of this is 383.4 square feet. The existing accessory building is 685, which is 3.5% of the parcel size. So this standard may be met. The second standard, the area of the accessory building in relation to the principal building on the lot on which the accessory building is to be placed. The proposed principal building on the parcel looks like it will be around 1,600 square feet. Therefore, this standard may be met. Third, the location of the accessory building in relation to other buildings on the adjoining lots and in relation to the principal building on the lot. The existing accessory building is 70 feet from the residential structure on Maricopa and approximately 65 feet from the nearest neighbor. So this standard may be met. Next standard is whether or not the accessory building will affect light and air circulation of the adjoining property. No change to the existing situation is being proposed, and the location of the accessory building should allow adequate space between the accessory building and the expected new residential structure. So this standard may be met. And finally, whether the accessory building will adversely affect the adjoining property or view of the adjoining property. No obstruction of the view is indicated. Therefore, the standard may be met as well.
All right, great, Dennis. All right, Danielle, roll call, please.
Three,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Kendall.
Yes. All right.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
request a 3-minute recess?
If you need a recess, that'd be great. I think if everybody else does too, that'd be good time.
Not used to these long meetings.
Yeah, get a record setter here.
I think we're down to $2 an hour.
I looked at your previous one because I'm missing a band concert tonight.
Oh, man.
And I was like, oh, there might be a chance, hon. No. We had trophies that we had to work through.
We usually do not see this many.
Yeah, this
items
is-
on our-
Oh, I looked at the last year and a half. I'm like, it's like half an hour, 45 minutes, but we haven't stacked up.
Record setter.
Yeah. Three, maybe four has happened, but
We're still not.
I feel like
We're not.
never six.
We gotta talk about your house. I'll set that.
When then decides that question. Come on.
No way.
No breaks for you.
That's right.
There was a lot of job security. There's a patient day tomorrow. Okay, how long have you been in the city? The plan. Did you work with any of the building? You like this? Just look like that. It's just, I mean, it's that's. So I've been doing that for 27 years. So. I've done concepts, so I've had seven. I've been doing building and development for the last 5 years, and so that's kind of just. People like me over here, they just.
Right.
There are moments in your job. Your job to help us. I work really close with my CA. Yeah. And that's, and I'm not, I know that's. Every. Right.
So they do
Do your thing.
no, it's not.
It's got, it's quite fun.
Yeah, good.
Happiness.
I never read it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I think we're back. We can re-adjourn. All right. I think we're on to hearing number 5. So Mika, you were able to, I guess we've kind of already got an introduction to 5, so we're just on the second part of the south lot. Broken apart here is into number 5 for us. So we're looking at the space between existing house and the north lot's accessory building. Right? So we did, yes, I guess, yeah,
I'm
thank
gonna
you.
correct you, it's to the north or the James Street lot line, not the accessory structure. It's from this house to the lot, is it correct?
Yes, yes.
To the new property line.
Yes, to the rear property.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yep, the setback, essentially, the rear yard setback. Okay. Do you want to discuss do you have anything more to add that we haven't read or has been presented? Okay. And then I'll open up for a quick public hearing on item 5 here. Nobody wants to comment? Okay, I'll close public hearing and then open it up for board discussion. And so yeah, we've got a 44.3 feet existing from the rear yard where 50 is required. So as it stands, I guess that's kind of where we're faced with as we're approving. Yeah. So it's a relief, like Mika says, or the staff comments say 5.7 of relief here, 5.7 feet of relief for that not meeting the 50 feet. So we've got our 3870 standards for review. The typical 5 we see. Actually, no, there's 4. Sorry. 4. It's the first time I've done this.
Mika, can I ask a question? I know there was mention about the existing home is angled in such a way that the variance is really required because of the angle of the home. So does the proposed lot line adjustment follow the shape of the home or
It kind of jogs, so it jogs around the accessory building in order to allow that to have a conforming setback on the
Okay.
parcel. So it doesn't jog around the home, but the line kind of goes, I don't have enough hands for this, but it goes like this. And then this part, that's the closest part down, kind of meets the angle of the house. So it's a pretty small corner of the house and corner of the lot that is that non-conforming section.
And the rest of it will be
The
conforming.
rest of it is, yeah.
So if you are the accessory structure, the house is sitting back there like this, and you're right there.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve this variance request to allow a rear yard setback of 44.3 feet where 50 feet are required.
Okay. You got support for that? Okay, great.
Mr. Chair, if I may go through.
Yes.
The factors. Number one, the strict compliance. These are the factors in section 38-70. Number one, is strict compliance with the zoning ordinance regulating the minimum area, yard setbacks, frontage, height, bulk or density, or other regulation would render conformity with those restrictions of the zoning ordinance unnecessarily burdensome. In this case, the setback requirement the rear setback requirement is 50 feet. The relief being requested is minimal, as discussed, at 5.7 feet. And is only necessary given that the northeast rear corner of the house and how the home is angled requires that necessitates this minimal setback adjustment. Number two, that granting the requested variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to other property owners in the zoning district. Again, this is a very minor setback adjustment. It offers relief to the property owner and is also consistent with justice to other property owners in the district as well. Noting here that this brings the property that is parcel that's being created, or the property as a result of the property adjustment into conformance. Number three, that the plight of the property owner applicant is due to the unique circumstances of the property and not due to the general conditions of the zoning district. Here, the plight of the applicant is due to the non-conforming location of the accessory building, which is placed currently on the property line. This is an unusual situation, and again, the relief granted here brings the properties into compliance. Finally, that the practical difficulties alleged are not self-created. Again, this issue was created because the accessory building was built on the property line, as indicated in item number 4. It is not clear what the applicant's involvement was in causing the accessory building to be built there. However, there's not enough evidence to support that these practical difficulties are self-created, and therefore that standard can be met.
All right, thanks, Ms. Morgan. Danielle, we can take a roll call on that.
Ms. Handle. Ms. Morgan.
Yes.
Mr. E.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes. All right.
My microphone was off. I hope you got all that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good night.
You too. Thanks. All right, down to our last item of the evening, hearing number 6. You guys have been very patient. Mika, would you be able to introduce us real quick?
Indeed, item number 6 is again to allow the expansion of the structure within an existing non-conforming setback. So this is a house that is 100+ years old. It was built in an era where surveying was not what surveying is today. So we have quite a few of these that are very close to or on property lines. They're looking to add a second floor to the rear portion of the structure, retaining the existing footprint. And, that's the request. This is according to the standards. Oh, there are 2, pardon me. So there are the 3 standards for 38,383 for those that are within an existing non-conforming setback. And then because This is also less than 5 feet from the property line. There is an additional set of standards for a variance from that 5 feet minimal requirement as well.
For the, to raise it up. That is, for the variance for the 5 feet too. Okay, yeah, even on it's some of the same footprint as the house. Oh,
Yes, the applicant is also.
Okay, let's, yeah,
Okay.
with the applicant, you can sign in and state your name for us for the record and
So my name's Amy Albrink. I'm the builder who is helping the Tar family. This is Lynn Tar, the owner of the home. I'm going to be renovating their great 100-plus-year-old cottage. So retaining a lot of the charm, but the second floor they would like to expand to meet their needs. So as Mika said, the footprint stays the same on the first floor. We're working within that footprint. It's just the 2 dormers that are on the back of the house will come off to have a different roof line along the back that adds a little more square footage. That ridge line that's on the back does not go up above the existing roof line, ridge line. So when you're standing on Ottawa Beach Road looking at the home, you won't see any difference unless you're really trying to look around the home, but it doesn't poke above that existing ridge line. And then the home backs up to quite a steep dune. So there really is not a neighbor to the back. And then Lynn has had some correspondence with the neighbors if you're interested in that, which was not submitted to your public record, but has heard from them.
Was it all positive?
Including the one that was, the one corner in question, the back corner of the house that actually sits on the property line. Specific, that's owned by the Gillettes. They also were positive about that. So it was, I have communication from them as well as the 2 homes that are on the top of the dune that actually look down onto the back of the house.
okay, great. Any
This
good
is
questions for the
This is
applicant?
one of our gems.
Yeah, it is.
And it's in an overlay district.
Yep,
And we certainly want to be as cooperative as possible. And we value your loyalty to the community. So thank you very much.
yeah, pursuing the project, that's a good project.
Yeah, so this is your record-breaking long meeting, so we don't want to add to that. So I won't walk you through all the drawings, but
Okay.
the very distinctive turrets that are on the front of the home remain. That doesn't change. So it is the back of the home that you do not see. That does not have the distinctive character that you're used to seeing on the front.
Yeah, you're just tying in, and you're below the main ridge line all the whole time
Yeah.
with that back portion. Yep. All right. I guess public hearing, I'll open it and close it since no one's here. And then we can open it up for board discussion. If there's any questions for the applicant beyond what we're seeing or.
since. Wait,
Mhm.
bothering anybody? It's always good.
Yeah. So as Mika said, we've got 2 items for review, to review the entirety of this. One for enlargement along or within a existing setback, and then the second one being less than 5 feet from the side lot line. Being in an addition, so both cases. Three items for the first review.
Unless the
Yeah.
board has questions, I would like to make a motion to approve the applicant's request under section 38-483E2.
Support. I guess support, okay. Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, I'll go ahead with the standards unless you want to get. The first standard would be the proportion of the main wall which has been altered by the addition. And the proposed addition makes up a little less than 25% of the face of the structure when viewed from the side. So I believe that this standard can be met. The second standard was the overall effect of the proposed addition on adjoining properties and the character of the surrounding neighborhood. And the proposed structure will add bulk to the rear of the house and alter the lines of the structure when viewed from the sides, but remains within the existing footprint and doesn't alter the home's appearance from the front. So I believe that this standard may be met. And the third, the addition shall not be less than 5 feet from the side or rear lot lines and shall not be less than 10 feet from the front lot line. This is a second floor addition to an existing structure that is located less than 5 feet from the side lot line. So I believe that this standard can be met as well.
All right.
If the second,
If-
conditioned on us approving the second variance, is that my understanding? Yeah.
Good observation, consistent with the approval of the second section.
Okay, so we need to have a roll call on that first portion, right? So, all right, Danielle, if you could do that for us.
Mr. Sardi.
Yes.
Ms. Gagnon. Approve. Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. E.
Yes,
Clearly.
Yes. All right, part two. Okay, is our next item here for the addition located less than 5 feet from the side lot line. That's a question.
would you like me to follow
I think we
up?
got to have a motion to approve that as well.
I would make a motion to approve the standard section 3870 application.
And we got support there too. Okay,
Okay, first standard to be approved is that the strict compliance with the zoning ordinance regulating the minimum area, yard setbacks, frontage, height, bulk, or density, or other regulation would render conformity with those restrictions on the zoning ordinance unnecessarily burdensome. Based on staff comments, the 5 feet minimum is generally required both to ensure the maintenance access to the structure and because of the building code requires additional fireproofing measures when the structures are 10 feet together or closer. Given that this is an existing structure, these goals may not be relevant and therefore the standard may be met. Secondly, the granting the request variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to other property owners in the zoning district. If a lesser relaxation than the applied would give substantial relief, the property owner more consistent with justice to the other property owners in the district, the Board of Appeals may grant a lesser variance provided other standards are met. In response to staff comments, granting the required variance would allow the owners to work within the existing footprint of the historic home and does not appear likely to affect neighboring properties. So this standard may be met as well. The third standard, that the plight of the property owner or applicant is due to the unique circumstances of the property. And based on staff comments, the unusual location of the existing structure is a result of the limitations of surveying accuracy when the house was built. Although not unheard of, these historic neighborhoods, it would not be considered a general condition of the zoning district. So based on this, the standard may be met. Finally, that the practical difficulties aligned are not self-created. And this condition has existed presumably since the house was built in 1886. So this standard certainly may be met.
thanks, Dennis. All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Morgan.
Yes.
Mr. E.
Yes.
Mr. Thurman.
Yes.
Carried.
Yes. All right, you've got your variance. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thank you for your
Have a
patience.
good night.
Can I ask you a general question? It's not this particular, but it said something about fire, because the things are so low. Do they do any mitigating, like? We hear close fires jumping from one house to the next, are they near another house? I mean,
They're not.
okay,
No, they're much further than that from the other house.
And you know, when they're that close, you can't go, oh geez, you never had a fire here, it would.
Yeah, you'd have
You have
firewalls to build and
Firewall,
Yeah,
that
something.
sort of thing, yeah.
I was just
Yeah,
curious.
this one's pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
all right.
I think it's good.
So our next item is public comment and I'll open that and close it. Since there's 0 people here and so it looks like the next meeting, there's 3 applications in June. June 3, 2024. So with that, this is my last meeting, right? So perhaps,
I've been told that sometimes the end of a term is not the end of a term. And so I don't have more information
Okay.
than that at this point.
all right,
So-
stay tuned.
Well,
Well,
we could talk about it
okay,
afterwards.
okay,
Work in progress.
okay,
Mr. Chairman, I will not be at the June meeting,
okay.
in spirit, of course, but not physically. And I also, and I don't want to
So I'll
steal
be there.
Lauren's thunder, but on behalf of the planning commission, I want to extend our sincere appreciation for your efforts. Your background in construction and building has been extremely valuable and really appreciated serving with you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, it's been fun. I enjoy this. So it was sad to hear that the limit was upon me. So I think last year there was a vote on the term limit. So,
You could maybe legally change your name and then
oh,
run again.
yeah, it's not that hard.
I mean, not run, but
Yeah,
you apply, yeah.
Yeah,
So do you want me to
But-
fill in June 3rd?
I think,
Since
yeah,
I'm
we
the
have to,
alternate.
yeah.
So I put on my calendar, maybe I would be sick then. I just thought there'd be a mutiny if I
yeah.
said I couldn't make it, so I medicated. I've been far away from everybody.
And I just want to say for the record that Mika, you did a heck of a job putting
Yeah.
the packet together.
Absolutely.
Very nicely done.
Yeah, thank you, Mika. Always. This is just better and better. These are so great to be able to follow along with. So,
But that first one, that just doesn't, something's not quite, I don't know if the law or the regulations, they need to be changed for these.
let's adjourn. We're gonna adjourn the meeting and then we can talk after.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll make that
Record.
motion.
Make a motion to adjourn somebody. All right, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.